Peace Barricade.
Hello and welcome on the Peace Barricade. This is a podcast produced by an Eastern European academic and also pro-peace activist here in Romania. I am based in Bucharest and I intend to advance the message of peace. With me today is a legend of pacifism coming from Germany, Wolfgang Lieberknecht. He is one of the most stable, devoted pacifists I know, and he's also a socialist. So he's going to bring us very important analysis from this critical point of view. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you that you invited me.
Well, of course. I'm glad not only to discuss the pacifist, but also to talk to a person that comes from a Marxian perspective and can offer a more in-depth analysis of what peace really means. Wolfgang, I think we are at the brink of the nuclear war, of a major disaster. Maybe I'm exaggerating. I hope I'm exaggerating, but I don't think so.
I agree. In the same way.
It is like we are sleepwalking to a major disaster. What is and who's the main culprit here?
And from my point is, after the end of the Soviet Union, the Americans, they had a political stream which came through and said, we never want to allow another power in this world which can challenge us. Mm-hmm. We will organize a unipolar world where we dominate and bring our interests through how we want. So this is a point. And in between now, they have come up powers which are really challenging the hegemony or the domination of the Western world. And I think it's the first time since 500 years that the world has a chance. I see us as one human family in the world, as a Universal Declaration of Human Rights does it. It's the first time that we can overcome the domination and exploitation through the Western world, by the Western world. But it will be now a very dangerous transformation where every day it can be our last day. This we must say, because the West doesn't accept what is written in the UN Charter, that we organize a world order with equal rights for all states. They never accepted it on the paper. Okay, they wrote it, but this was all. They undermined it. And this is a big part why we got a Cold War. This idea which Roosevelt and Stalin, independent what we think about Stalin's policy in Soviet Union East, but they agreed we organize now a world together. And Roosevelt convinced the Americans, please, we have atomic weapons today. If we don't solve the conflicts peacefully, it might be the end of mankind. So we have to. And this was their idea to organize the United Nations. And it is law since 1945 that all conflicts can only be solved peacefully. But, the Americans continued, like the Western world, did it now for some 100 years, to use their industry, their strong states. Then they were the first to build national states in Europe. And they used it to use violence, build a strong military to occupy and control nearly the whole world. It is like this. They had problems among themselves, so they didn't they could not agree who should be the first and the second. So they organized two world wars among themselves, who will control the world and dominate the world, and brought us already a lot of suffering worldwide. And now we are in a very dangerous situation, and we have to see how we come out. And it is not easy, because I must say, in the Western world and also in Germany, they control the mind of the people. They control the ideas.
Yes. Definitely. And you said something that really worried me, because coming from Germany, of course, you know very well the history of your country. And you told me in a previous discussion that Germany lost the war years before it actually ended. And this is very worrisome, because it is my interpretation that no matter how much you like the West, you may like it, and a lot of people like it, and they may like it even for sincere reasons, not because they are manipulated. Okay, no matter how much you like it, they are losing in Ukraine. Ukraine
Exactly.
cannot win, and Ukraine, is smaller and weaker. This is a fact. It is not like I'm saying 5 is or 9 is bigger than 5. This does not mean I am pro 9 and anti 5, okay? Saying that Ukraine is smaller than Russia and weaker is not that I am pro Russia or anti Ukraine. So they are losing. Do you see the same scenario playing out where the war is lost, but they keep escalating even though it is lost?
Yeah, I see also the position of Russia really different from our mainstream. I think Putin tried to avoid this war. When Germany came together, Germany and Americans promised the Soviet Union and later Russia, they don't expand towards the Russian border. They respect the security needs of the Russians and the Soviet Union, but they didn't do it. They expanded the NATO, they encircled Russia. And the way was what they many times said, we want to buy their resources and split this big country so that we can dominate them. This is a point, and what is the background. And even before the intervention of Russia in Ukraine, Putin proposed them contracts. Yeah, that Ukraine should be neutral, and the conflict in Ukraine should be solved peacefully, as it was agreed in Minsk. But the West didn't respect it. They built up the Ukraine army, and from my point, they have a strategic point to weaken Russia. They want this, and they misuse Ukraine to attack and weaken Russia, and then maybe concentrate on China. Because the real challenger is not Russia. They can defend now their interest naturally in a, for us, all horrible way, and especially for the Ukraine, it destroys it. But the really challenger is China, because economically they are so strong. If things get peacefully, China will be the strongest economy in the world, and this had naturally also political implications. And till now, I don't know, I hope it continues, China stay for the Charter of the of the UN, and says we want a world with equal rights. And I believe from the also philosophical background, Confucius in China, they want harmony. They have own interests, but they also see the interests of the others and want to balance it. So I have some hope, and from my point, this for the transformation. Therefore, we need a dialogue with the BRICS. But now I come to your question. Germany, the Hitler people, they wanted to colonize Soviet Union. This was very clear. They said first we will conquer after they failed to win against Great Britain in the first part of the Second World War. Then they broke agreements with Soviet Union, attacked the country, and then in 1941, I read a speech of Hitler where he said, okay, first we take Soviet Union, then we take Europe, then we take Africa, and then we attack the United States of America. This was their plan. And they believed that these countries are very weak, and when they attack, they just fall like paper houses together. But in fact, the Soviet Union, after they understood the danger they are in 1941, they stopped the German attack in front of Moscow. And even Hitler at this time understood the war is lost. So then the really game changer was in Stalingrad, where the German army really got a very big defeat. But here in Germany, no one wanted to accept it. This elite was preached for war. They don't want to tell the people now all what we told you, that to lead you in dying and killing, all was wrong. We were wrong. Yeah, all the other states are too strong. They didn't want to accept it because they know people will take them responsible. So also believed in these talks, yeah, that we are too strong, the others are weak, we will win. And they took all the sacrifices on top. But for this leading class, and I see the same today is NATO, they don't want to accept it. They don't want to accept it and they don't want to stop. Normally, if you see that you have lost in Ukraine, and I must tell you, in Germany, we had a former General Kujat, who was advisor of Merkel. He told them from the beginning, Ukraine has no chance to win. They have no chance. Please give it up. They ignored him. They didn't publish his ideas anymore. So you heard only we are winning. Long time, every small victory of Ukraine, there was big blown up. So that people really believe. Then they came with their wonder weapons. They are the German tanks and all this rubbish. They told you every day, the Russians are, Putin is dying of cancer. And all the stories they told us. And now people understand it's not so easy how they told us. And more and more people understand we might lose, but the NATO doesn't want to accept it. And therefore, the risk is very high. Even I think Zelensky, the Ukraine sees our only chance is to bring NATO inside this war. But this will be the end of Europe, this we must say. The effect the effect for us is already there. This building up the armies and putting money in Ukraine, it kills our social system. It destroys our social system in a long period. You know, all what is destroyed in Ukraine, naturally we as Europeans have more or less to help them later to build it up again. They don't care.
I completely
agree.
agree.
The industrial complex, yeah, which is dominating in our politics, in our economy, now this stream. They make money out of it as longer the war continues. Yeah, as more money they make out of. We common people, we are not counting. We are nothing for them. This I have learned as a young person when I saw the Vietnam War, how the Americans tried to avoid independence of Vietnam, of the former French colony. And they sent the young Americans even inside to kill and to die. They don't care. We are nothing. If we don't unite as common people, and we have no chance.
Yes, and I completely agree. And it is not because we are socialists, but I think we have a more realistic, down-to-earth understanding of the financial interests and then all the material conditions and the political economy of war. And it's not just some wishful thinking that we should come together. This is very nice, but at the same time, I think it's vital to have this type of analysis to name our enemy. Name our enemy and to name the problem. This is the first step, because if you don't know your enemy, how are you going to fight it?
Yeah, and for me, the US is not my enemy. You know, we have very strong opponents. Scott Ritter, for example, it's a former US officer and he worked for the United Nations in Iraq. And before the war, he told the whole world, they don't have these weapons. They don't have weapons of mass destruction. The US didn't see they lost their argument to make this war. They pushed him out of the commission. It's like this. If you tell them what is not in their interest, yeah, they push you out. And he makes, he organized a demonstration, no nuclear war, on the 7th of December in Washington. And he really thinks every minute from now, it might explode and we might be dead.
I know, I followed him closely. And as much as I don't like sometimes his pro-war, flamboyant rhetoric and sometimes his, very, very intense discourse, I mean, it's terrifying what he's saying. And there are others who are specializing and have a military background that warn that we are so close to nuclear war. And, for the final thought, because I have to respect your time, this is the last question. Don't you think that there's also the possibility of people that invested probably too much in Ukraine and now they have something personally to lose? I mean, I am trying to find rational explanations for this continuous escalation from Great Britain and France, because it's so obvious that they cannot win. And probably the question now is to prolong it so they don't lose personally some money, something, I don't know.
Yeah, there were always rumors that Biden also and his son were in corruption involved in Ukraine. And naturally, before I never knew how much resources the Ukraine have. They have the best soil of Europe for agriculture, and it seems that the Western companies already bought a lot of it. So they don't want to lose it. BlackRock and these big financial companies, yeah, they are inside. So also this is the reason. They don't want to lose this, and therefore they continue beside these weapon exports. And also, they like our divided Europe. This is the best. The idea, the general strategic idea of this British Mackinder, and said always, Eurasia should not come together. Otherwise, we can't control anymore the world. This was the British idea, and the Americans do it the same. If the fear they had, this idea of Gorbachev to organize a united Europe, the vision of one Europe house, which I support very much, and I was so happy after the divisions that we come, and the Soviet Union agreed in all what they wanted. We want a state of right, democracy, peace, justice. All they signed in the Charter of Paris in 1990. We overcome the split, what's there inside, and we organize now a Europe together. And first long time, I didn't understand how dangerous the Americans saw it. If this will come, the Russian resources with West European technique and science, they can challenge us. And so they tried everything to split Europe. And now, our money, instead of developing our continent, go in the weapon factories in the USA. Yeah, and we can't use it. We use even our resources ourselves to destroy our continent, to destroy Ukraine, instead of developing it. So normally we need, from my point, we need now a European network for the implementation of the Charter of Paris. And that we say, we common people, we want a social, peaceful, and democratic Europe, as you promised us in 1990. They don't speak about it. They don't speak about this Charter, but was international law. So we have to see how we come out, and it is not easy. But first of all, we have to fight this enemy picture. Russia is only our enemy. They only put the negative points. They don't speak about the positive points. In Russia, there are naturally also negative points, very clear. But this we have to solve in dialogue and not in taking the sovereignty away of other countries and use their mistakes just to say, no, we have to conquer them. We have to dominate them. This is what they do since hundreds of years with the weaknesses of other states, just to use it to dominate them and exploit them. And this we have to learn.
Yes, exactly. So when I said name the enemy, I said, yes, exactly what you're saying now. It's very important to have this type of discourse to correctly identify the problem. Because if we project and we say Russia or, I don't know, the United States or this on the other are the enemy, we don't understand the much deeper problem that we have to analyze and correctly identify. And this is exactly what you said.
From my point, the Western world is economically, they are nearly bankrupt. You know, their neoliberal stream, when they destroyed the social system step by step, yeah, here in USA, in Britain first, then in Chile, and then in West Europe, the rich and the poor, the gap got bigger and bigger and bigger. And the rich have money, but they can't even invest it because the people have no money to buy the things, because their wages went down, their social benefits went down, and so they don't know. And I must also say, I see also the ecological point. This Western consume style, yeah, and using, you know, gas, coal, and petrol, this is also nothing for the future. We have to come out, and we need solar energy, we need other things, and have to see what is with the next generations. You have seen in East Europe now this overflooding. It's in many parts of the world. What is going on now? We are really already destroying our ecological base. And this was mainly pushed from the West in over hundreds of years. So we have to see how we come out and transform to a social ecological situation. And I think we have to come out of NATO, because NATO they use as an instrument to use as Europeans as puppets for their aims to stay on top of the globe and of the top of mankind. So, and we have to take again this, what was implemented in the Helsinki process and the Charter, that we need a peace security system which gave the same security for all states in Europe. But it is a European system and not depending on NATO and other forces. Naturally, besides, we have to make the United Nations stronger. This is for my point
Yes,
also.
I love you for saying that. This is exactly what I was thinking now, because I didn't understand. Of course, I understand it, but when you think about it, okay, the UN was founded in 1945, 46, and then 3 years, 1948, you have NATO. Why, man? Why? Why not combine the two and then have peace and security for each and every country on the globe? Why not?
You know, till before the Second World War, Great Britain was dominating the world. And then when this idea was there that Soviet Union and US built a world together with peace, Mr. Churchill from Britain went to America and tried to win, I think in 1947, and said there, we have to put the Soviet Union back. We have to put them back out of the areas, you know, and we have iron cotton through Europe. And he connected with those stream, which was in the US, even in the war there, who said, after we don't want this common world of the common man. We want a US-dominated world to replace the British. And then these two streams, this stream was part in USA, and the Britain, they united, and the British knew only with the help, the economic power of US, we have the chance to stay on top of the world. And the big chance we had with the creating of United Nations and the cooperation, the anti-Hitler coalition, which was in the Second World War, the big chance they have destroyed. And naturally, the common people, you know, we were in problems after the war, and we could not have the political power to say, okay, we bring now this world without war through. So it was not easy to make it, and it was easy now to bring the division between the Western world and the Soviet Union there to create it. They were successful in it, and from my point, the idea of Gorbachev, you know, in the 1980s, we were nearly at the end. There was in 1983. We had nearly an atomic war. There was the person in Russia, the officer who had to overlook the area, the atmosphere. They got signals that the Americans have started rockets against them, and for luck, he said, "Oh, I don't believe it. They would not attack us with 5. They would attack us with 200." And then he did not inform this president who was at this time in the Soviet Union.
Brezhnev.
No, it was not Brezhnev. It was this old man.
Andropov.
Exactly. You know that his order was, if the attackers, we have to shoot back, that not only we are dying, they are also dying. But this person, for luck, said, no, I don't believe it, because they would attack with more rockets. But later, when he read that there was a NATO declaration, we can also make small strikes to just to behead the people, to destroy the commando centrals. He said, if I would have known it, I would have shot.
Yes,
in
we were so
1980,
close of nuclear annihilation.
exactly.
Wolfgang,
And for
it
luck,
was for luck we escaped.
he stopped the Cold War, but the West never stopped it. They never stopped the Cold War. They saw not the chance for peace, they chance now to dominate the world without any opponent. And this has brought us today in this very risky situation, and we have to create in the West now a stream that we want an equal world, and we don't want to dominate anymore, because it might cost even all our lives.
Thank you so much for this very, very insightful analysis. And I definitely have to bring you back because I think our viewers have so much to learn from you. Since you know so many details regarding history and you are also a long-standing pacifist, thank you so much for joining us. And dear viewers, if you like what you saw, if you want to hear Wolfgang again on our show, please click the like, subscribe button, share our content, and ask questions. We are very interested to answer. Thank you so much again.
Thank you very much, Maria, that you took me. Bye-bye. For a united Europe in peace. Bye-bye.
Peace.
Peace Barricade.